Hello and welcome to Some of My Friends Read Comics. We've got Vince.
Please tell me you're not putting this on the internet.
We've got Chris.
Hot dog for a heart.
And I'm Kia. Hello, welcome to the show. I'm surprised none of you said Taco Drone. That was my favorite line of the whole thing. Taco Drone. We're talking about Prez.
Reason for the season.
Happy 4th of July, everybody. When did this come out?
July 4th, exactly.
Exactly? Wow.
Uh-huh.
And it is a great time to celebrate America. So let's talk about presidents. Let's talk about fake presidents, comic book presidents. A while back, was it last year, we talked about Prez, who was the first teen president. It was an old comic from, the 60s, 70s?
76-ish, I think?
76,
Yeah.
right?
Mid-70s.
And it was like this crazy thing with like vampires and robots and... this kid becomes president, and there's Boss Smiley and everything, and it got canceled after, 4 issues?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, very disappointing. But they rebooted it a few years ago. This was 2015. It was written by Mark Russell with art by Ben Caldwell, who I'm not really familiar with their work at all. Have you guys read anything else of theirs?
We've talked about Mark Russell's Flintstones before.
That's right.
Yes.
Which is supposed to be really good, really socially conscious, and I totally get that from this. This is a very modernized reboot. Go ahead.
The reviews I had read of it, or like pumping it up, were saying it was like Transmetropolitan for the 2000 teens. Is that accurate at all, Kia? I know you read a lot of Transmet.
I did not read a lot of it. I read a few of the first trades. I would say no. It doesn't feel like Transmetropolitan to me a lot. It feels more like Idiocracy to me than anything else.
Yeah.
I would say they both have elements of satire. They have that in common, but yeah, I don't think they have that much in common.
Yeah. I'll just say I really love this book. It does a great job of just kind of talking about how mad I am at the political system, and just making fun of it, and it's fun. There are so many great world building details, like the taco drone, and I'm never gonna stop talking about this taco drone. It's a great idea. You
should go to tacocopter.com then.
Is that a real thing?
It was a fake thing.
Okay, great.
But then on the East Coast, the taco copter was for lobsters. It was lobster copter, the tacos of the East.
All right, we're talking about too much silly stuff. We need some context here. What's going on with this book? All right, so it is the year 2030 something. The
36.
future. 36.
It should really just be 2024, shouldn't it?
Why?
It doesn't feel like it's that far in the future.
Okay, all right, fair. I mean, people are getting elected by Twitter. There are so many corporations that are basically just run by avatars. There's a Pharmaduke, which is
I love Pharmaduke. That's a great name.
Great name. It really is great.
That is a good name.
There is Boss Smiley is there. We don't really get to him until the end of issue 1. But honestly, most of this thing is just about all these different political entities competing with each other, trying to gain control over the system. And meanwhile, you have Prez. What's her name? Beth Ross. Mm-hmm. She's working at a fast food place. She goes viral because her hair catches on fire while she's doing something with corn dogs, and they're calling her Corn Dog Girl. And meanwhile, there's this election going on, and lo and behold, everybody's stupid in the future, and they only care about what's hot and meme worthy, and people
in
start
the future,
voting
right?
for Corn Dog Girl in the future. That's right, in the future, not now, just in the future. But everybody starts voting for Corn Dog Girl, and Boss Smiley at the end. I'm jumping around like crazy because the plot in this thing is fairly straightforward and quick. There's just so much world building. Any other details you guys want to mention from the first issue that you remember seeing?
Not really. I did like that Boss Smiley though. So Boss Smiley was the bad guy of the original Prez.
Yeah.
And he makes his own kind of newish appearance in this. I was at least pleased to see Boss Smiley's here. He's a little different, obviously, but it's still a book that's I guess Idiocracy is probably your best example. Is it's actively making fun of the world with a lot of background gags, almost like a lot of Alan Moore books would do.
Yeah.
And so I'm digging it. the plot is kind of just like it just zooms, like you don't really get a chance to catch your breath. So my notes are kind of sporadic at this point.
Because same with me.
But
it seems more about like all these side characters who aren't even particularly important. You have like so many people running for president, and they're appearing on all these terrible reality shows. These terrible, what is it, puppy slaps?
There's that. That's like Go Away Baton. That's Idiocracy. There's the show that actually has been sticking in my head a lot. Is like, what would you do for $1 billion?
Yeah,
and they have this weird game show where like people shoot themselves. Like, not in the face and not in their hands and limbs, but like, if you do this, and then you jump through this spiky pit, and if you do all this, we'll give you $1 billion. And I was like, that's fucked up. But, you know, nice exploitation and class warfare throughout this whole book.
Yeah.
This book go ahead. It's funny that it's already dated because this is from 2015. There's a lot of like the Democrat and the Republican candidates are basically like they're the same. They're just owned by different things. Just pretty lazy. But you know, this is 2015, and we all thought this was cutting insight into the upcoming 2016 election.
Yeah, I will say that this book does have some pretty nice insight every now and then for like when it gets all like high horsey. I actually did kind of enjoy it because it felt more important than just like, oh, making fun of politics, kind of giving it a reason to exist, if you will. I did like those moments.
Yeah, because it can walk up very close to Aaron Sorkin, like, I'm the person who could say the most perfect thing in this situation, like liberal fantasy. But she fails a lot too, which is nice, and she's forced to compromise a lot, which is interesting.
Yeah, we should talk a little bit more about her. Her dad is dying from cat flu that is going around, which is really funny because I always wondered like how bird flu, like what the fuck was bird flu, and cat flu is just an even funnier escalation of that. Except bird flu was real. Sorry to all those people who lost loved ones to the bird flu. Did anyone die of bird flu?
I don't know. There was also swine flu.
Swine flu.
That was a thing too. You're right. Swine flu. So her dad's in the hospital. There's also, what is this, the end of life bear that's going around? What's that guy's name? Yeah, that's his name, End of Life Bear.
End of Life Bear, yeah.
But he's always going to the wrong rooms.
Yeah, he's going to the wrong room. But he just shows up and says, hi, I'm the End of Life Bear. You want some marijuana? And he's a nice little bear just going around making people's end of their lives very peaceful and nice. So her dad dies of the cat flu, and meanwhile, all these politicians are still trying to figure out what's going on. There is no clear winner in the election based on voter turnout, so it goes down to Congress to figure it out. I don't know. There's all this behind-the-scenes stuff of everyone arguing and political stuff, and finally, Prez ends up being the winner. Hooray, congratulations.
Which I remember with the original Prez, I was very incredulous as to how he became president. This book, I'm like, this seems plausible. I'm okay with this. Like, it goes to the lengths that I'm like, I buy this. I buy how Corn Dog Girl could become president. I'm behind it. We're cool.
I do like seeing all those politicians like with their wheeling and dealing, and like, hey, how about I give you a NASA if you vote for my guy? I'm like, okay, cool. It's like, oh, come here, I could get you 2 NASAs. And they're like at panda wrestling events. There's like all this crazy stuff going on. Oh, and Prez gets I keep calling her Prez. The book never actually calls her Prez. Do they?
No.
No, we got to call her Beth Ross because the original Prez shows up a little bit later. But Beth is talking to this weird church cult, the Church of Wormology. Is that what they're called?
Right.
Yeah, who believe that this cat virus is like these viruses have rights as well, and we shouldn't be trying.
All life is sacred.
All life is sacred,
including
even
viruses.
Yeah, which is a fair point, I would say. That's why I don't eat vegetables.
I don't eat red viruses.
Yeah, that's why I don't cook chicken. I just gotta eat it raw.
That's safe, very safe. So Beth Ross ends up becoming president, and there's a big throwdown on the floor of the house. Everybody's going wild, and then Prez shows up, the original Prez from the first books, except I guess this is like a rebooted version. And he is there to say, hey, let me be your vice president. I'll help you. We'll do this together. And she trusts him, and so they do it. And then he doesn't really do much else after that, other than provide a little bit of guidance here and there.
There's some seeding that like he was a complete fuck up and he was a joke and he shouldn't be a politician. So something happened. I don't know if like Parks and Rec like Icetown level, or maybe like in this world he actually was president in 1976.
Well, no, he says he was almost president.
Yeah.
But, so this has to be sort of a different universe.
But did we say that this book was canceled before its time? It was originally.
Well, you're right. We haven't really talked about that. We should say that a lot of these threads are left a little bit dangling because, this was only 6 issues, and it was supposed to be a 12-issue sort of maxi series that got canceled after issue 6, which is a little bit of a bummer because I was really enjoying this ride. So we'll get to issue 6, and we'll kind of talk about what's left and what maybe would have been touched on later.
Flintstones got 12 issues, though, I think.
Yes, it did.
So.
Good for Flint. And, Flintstones is also DC, right? Hanna-Barbera. Yeah, that makes sense. So I'm glad he's still getting some work. I really do enjoy his writing. He talks, I think, getting into issue 3 now, one of my favorite threads is talking about these corporations, like Boss Smiley, what's the name of his company? Smiley Enterprises, and all the people who work for him, and they're, like, counting things by the second and measuring your bathroom breaks to see what you actually did. Measuring it time-wise and deposit-wise, I guess.
Again, this is going to be great in 6 years when this is the world we live in.
I don't think it's going to happen that fast.
This book also, like, because they're following a worker at Smiley Co. who's like asking for time off and he's injured and he can't get like workers' comp or anything like that. And this to me feels like a lot like a Vertigo book, especially like a Preacher. Then I'm like, this guy is going to be like something in 20 issues. And this is our first introduction to him because he doesn't come back, I don't think, beyond this issue.
No, but this was the issue where she starts building her cabinet. And so I thought maybe he was going to become part of the cabinet because she has the ability to spy on anyone everywhere with any camera. And she's just like picking people kind of at random, like, hey, that's some good philosophy you're teaching your daughter about what's his name, Gargamel from the Smurfs. I did like that moment where he's talking about how it's holding up a mirror to ourselves and the evils that willing to exterminate an entire race just for a snack. I quite enjoyed.
Yeah, there was also a dude that was the adventure capitalist who was trying to get something out of her, and she called him a vampire, and I got really excited for a sec.
Yeah, I got excited too. I thought it was a throwback to the old, and nothing ever really. Well, and then like in another issue in her limo, there's like blood, and so I was like, oh, okay, more vampire clues. But no, we never got a vampire.
We never found out what the status of Transylvania is in this universe.
That would have been so good. That should be like issues 12 to 18. Should be a 6-part War on Transylvania.
We did get some robots. That was a lot of fun. I should mention there was like a preview issue 0, where they're on their way to the UN and they get attacked by robots or something. So we had some robots in there. That was great. She had Anonymous help her hack them, which was great. We had let's see what else is going on here.
She gets Neil deGrasse Tyson in her cabinet.
It's not Neil deGrasse Tyson though. What's his name? It's something Holyfield instead.
He sure looks a lot like Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Yeah, and it's meant to be a parody because it's Franklin Holyfield Tyson.
Wow.
Yeah.
Clever with the pun names there.
I think Comedy Bang Bang, the TV show, did a similar pun name. It was Sinbad playing Noel DeSoyle Holyfield.
That's good.
Great stuff. There's a page here that was not colored all the way. Did you guys notice this page in the middle where it's a bunch of politicians at lunch or something?
Oh yeah, no, they're like in this the lunchroom is like this little like white world at the UN. Like it's a plot point.
It is? I don't remember seeing that. A white world?
Yeah, it's like all like lacks color. It comes back at the end of the issue.
Oh, I missed it completely. Okay. I should read.
Or maybe another issue. I don't know. These all bled together really quickly.
Yeah, like again, this all feels like just 6 issues. It's all just kind of one story, one world that's slowly getting built up over time. You have like drone pilots who are piloting all these robots, and Prez at one point decides. I'm probably jumping around here, but Prez decides at one point that these killer robots are not okay and cancels it. But like people are losing their jobs, and that's not all right. Twitter has like a huge role in all this book. Everything is so in like the public eye.
Well, it won the social media war.
Yeah.
Oh
yeah. Twitter.
Yeah. To me, that's the part that makes it more like 2024. Because like think about it. Like this is supposed to be what 20 or what 18 years from now.
Yeah. Now, 21 from when it was written. But yeah.
Yeah. It's like think about. I mean, that would be like saying that in 1999, like, well, Yahoo is still doing great, everybody. Like,
well, and also the older politicians, who are in their like 50s, look down on Twitter as a voting mechanism, which I'm like, they're people ostensibly our age, born in the same era as we were, looking down on Twitter like it's a young people's thing, and that.
But I already do that, so I find that believable.
Especially people that would be douchebags that would be politicians like these ones are. Okay.
Yeah, and like Chris, I gotta say, I totally am on board with that criticism. But at the same time, that's pretty much like anything in the future is always based on what we already know. And I do kind of wish they'd picked a different name or like made fun of Twitter with something else like they do with a lot of other things. So I get where you're coming from, but at the same time, I'm fine with it. I believe that Twitter only existed as long as it did because it won the social media wars. What was the line? It's like to end, the 20 million dead to something
Facebook,
about that.
Yeah. But issue 4 starts with the dude. Not starts, but like it gets a little real where a guy he gets arrested for filming soldiers killing a child, and he's a criminal, and I'm like,
yeah, God, this thing gets rough. I don't want to, before it gets too rough, I don't want to pass over Sexy Frog. Sexy Frog was like it was all over social media like, hey, Beth Ross wins the presidency, send her a gift. And her grandma sends her a sexy frog that sits on the edge of her desk. That's all. I really like that Sexy Frog. So what else happens in issue 4?
Kermit is the original Sexy Frog.
Kermit will never stop being a sexy frog.
I don't know. What about the WWB frog? Doesn't he predate?
That guy's
Kermit?
not
Michigan J Frog.
Sexy, though. He's like,
look at them gams. He's got some legs.
I guess so, but
baby,
it's
hello, honey.
I mean, I put him above Robin for sure.
Vince, I don't know what you're talking about. Whenever I look at that frog, he's just sitting there croaking like he can't even talk.
Oh, this guy's not in the know. All right.
Is Robin the one that sings Halfway Down the Stairs? I like that song. Okay, I'm on board with that.
All right. Issue 4 also had a Westworld reference, which kind of threw me because I didn't think Westworld was out by the time this book was coming out.
It wasn't. Or was it?
They probably mean the old movie from like 30 some years ago.
Oh, wait. I didn't realize there was an old movie. Okay.
There was, because Ed Harris comes out dressed like the hero of the original Westworld, like in the first episode, or so I've read.
Okay.
But Westworld took off all of 2017, so Westworld may have started in early 2016, maybe? Or was that late 2016?
Maybe it was announced. I don't know.
I think this had to have been referencing that old movie then instead of the show, because I don't think people were talking about the show as early
with
as
their
this.
lead time. I don't think Westworld was on in like March 2016 when this issue published or ish.
It's an absurd reference anyway.
It kind of there's also the Beast of War, the War Beast, this big robot that has been developed by some private company. And this thing, it's like learning different moves and everything from watching movies, but it also likes to watch its own movies. It likes to watch 7 Wives for 7 Brothers, or what's the name of that movie?
7 Brides for 7 Brothers.
7 Brides for 7 Brothers, yeah. and it kind of develops its own sort of sentience and goes off and does its own thing. This robot, I think, maybe is my favorite character of the book, because at this point I'm really realizing that the book is less about Beth Ross as president and more just about how shitty the world is.
Yeah.
And this robot develops sentience and kind of tries to go against its programming and do its own thing. And I really like following its journey, like in this kind of fucked up world and what it's been built for. It just wants to like be good and do its own thing. I really like this war beast. What's the name it picked for itself?
Tina.
It's a new name for it.
Which then I just put Tina from Bob's Burgers voice in it. Said.
I think it fits. Yeah, Tina's voice totally fits. Yeah,
makes sense.
There's
some Guantanamo Bay references, which are like okay.
There are. We have. I'm just gonna keep going on to issue 5. There's an apology tour. She's like, man, the America's done some fucked up shit. And decides to go around the world apologizing to everybody.
Well, and I love the news is like, how dare you apologize?
Yeah.
Doesn't that make us look weak? And that's when I always get mad when they say like he's a flip flopper. I'm like, or maybe he like fucking learned. Like maybe he took in some information and then changed his opinion.
The first decision you make is always correct.
How dare you be a hypocrite? Maybe I learned. Maybe.
Yeah. Never.
We have.
I wish this issue was double sized just so we could get all the countries we need to apologize.
Yeah. You just want that Transylvania cameo.
I want Transylvania. I want Argentina, which is not in this.
There's too many countries not in here.
I want all of them. Who else? France.
Just a giant 48-page like. Yeah, that'd be nice.
Yep, just going on and on. Russia, even. How about that?
Oh, this is a perfect opportunity for like a George Perez type like double page spread with like literally 48 panels on it.
Yeah. So meanwhile, while all this is going on, Pharmaduke is developing their own vaccine for the cat flu. And they're trying to get this deal going because this vaccine is ready, but they're just saying it's not ready so that they can try and get some money out of the government. And, man, there's some assholes. Pharmaduke is... Like, I know that Boss Smiley is supposed to be the bad guy, but it kind of feels like Pharmaduke is the bad guy of this whole first arc. Because they're really just kind of setting up a lot of bullshit.
Because Big Pharma is the bad guy of the real world.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, it feels like they're setting up for Smiley to be the end of issue 12 arc boss.
Yeah, that's true.
And that never happens.
Yeah, it feels like Boss Smiley is the boss of all these evil corporate avatars, and that they're maybe just going to take down like one avatar at a time. But they are trying to like make this deal where give us the like ability to put copyrights on the DNA that we discover while we're doing this, and we'll do it for you. And they like go behind her back, and she tries to veto it, but they've got enough votes. Like Democrats and Republicans get together. They never actually call them Democrats and Republicans, do they?
I think
it's always just
parties,
like both parties. Yeah.
I mean, there's an old guy and there's a less old guy. And it's pretty clear who is who.
Yeah. We have. We also haven't talked about her other assistant. Her other, Secretary of State? No. Secretary of something. It's one of her other cabinet members, who's this nice lady from where she used to work.
She was her boss at the corn dog.
Yeah, the corn dog place. She's great. She sustains an injury during some flight, and they use the meat maker device. What is that thing called?
There's a DNA mixer thing, yeah.
Yeah, it just like makes meat for you on the plane, so you always have some food ready. But they need a heart, so they make a heart for her. Very nice.
Mm-hmm.
Again, this book is all over the place. Sorry if it's hard to follow this, but there's so much stuff happening everywhere. They're trying to. Pharmaduke is trying to gain control over all DNA, and this law goes through that allows them to do it. And so, Prez goes to Fred Wayne. I thought this might be like a future of Bruce Wayne kind of thing. What is Bruce Wayne's kid's name?
Damian,
that's right. Not Fred. All right. Well, maybe they have a Fred somewhere down the line because it's a rich guy who's got his own thing going.
He owns all of Delaware.
Yeah, he's developing.
He owns all of Delaware, so only his employees and their families live in Delaware. And they were the one with the actual. I remembered later they were the ones that cast the deciding electoral college vote because they had abstained and they were the tie-breaking vote to give Corndog Girl her the presidency.
Yeah, he's also developed an algorithm that will just write novels. Like he won the Oscar for Best Picture that his algorithm wrote. Right. He's also developing email for cats that helps cats send email. And so Beth Ross goes to him to get some help with this, and he files a copyright for all the politicians' DNA. So now he owns them as people, and so Beth Ross uses this to get them to overturn the thing. It was a nice moment. Fun little, hey, we figured you out. You're out of here.
Yeah, okay.
I liked it enough. It was a fun sort of Deus Ex Machina kind of thing for the whole thing. You've also got Tina the robot who joins her security, her Secret Service, because for some reason the Secret Service keeps dying because there's a lot of explosions. Somebody tries to attack her with cat flu. She figures out the whole cat flu situation. Says she's going to quarantine all the cats. Some people don't like it, but it's okay. It's the right decision. And that's where the first arc kind of ends, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
And it's kind of a to be continued, but it's not.
Yeah, it says end of part 1 to be continued, and it was not. There was a quick little bonus story that was written in, I guess in 2016, there was a Catwoman election special, which seems like a bizarre thing to have, but it existed, and there was a backup story with Prez, which again didn't really have much Prez in it. It was about it was a big gun rights kind of thing, which I'm glad it's willing to talk about this stuff. About it, they're at some restaurant, somebody's got a hat gun that fires on command, and Prez is trying to argue that this is a bad thing. Good for you, Prez. It is a bad thing, but pretty much didn't actually wrap up the series. Just tackled a whole separate issue. So I was a little disappointed at that, but it was a fun story. So yeah, the end of Prez. Again, canceled before its time. How sad that both of these series have been canceled too early. It seems bizarre.
One part of me was wondering if they just let it die. Did the world say we need a new Prez in 2015, or was it simply DC trying to do copyright protection, like how they always publish Haunted Tank books?
Sure. I
would think that has already died. If somebody was coming for Prez, they could have taken it.
Who the fuck other than you, though, Chris, is saying we need to bring back Prez in 2015?
Prez was in the Sandman. We read that little issue, right? In 1993.
And popular demand swelled 20 years later. It's we need this.
It was I was looking on online. There was a one shot in 1995. Prez Smells Like Teen President, which maybe next year we'll read that because it was by Ed Brubaker, who we like.
Ooh.
Yeah. Also, there's a few other references, and the character of Prez has been around. I'm sure we haven't seen the last of a teenage president. I
feel like I'm on the right side of history, that Neil Gaiman and Ed Brubaker are Prez is great.
Yeah, exactly.
And the rest of the world is who is Prez?
Exactly.
No, the thing is going back and thinking about Prez, I really do I like the concept of it. I was a little incredulous towards it in the episode, but the way we talked about it, I really come to respect it, and I like it, and I wish that there was more of it. And I like that this book gives some winks and nods to the original, and it uses things like Boss Smiley, and it's got it's got a satirical bent. The 70s one had a satirical bent, not as mean-spirited satirical as this, but it seems like a worthy successor. Its storytelling is not the same, but it still has like gun control issue, and you know, it's still doing a lot of the same things.
Yeah, and I think it's similar to, and it's kind of weird to say, but like the Prez book was, I mean, I forget the writer, but it was like a silver or maybe even, I think it was Golden Age writer.
It wasn't Simon? Wasn't it Joe Simon then?
Yeah, I think it was. I think it was Simon was the writer.
Creator of Superman, right? Mm-hmm.
No, creator of Captain America.
That's what it was. Okay.
So, so like in the 70s, like that was aimed for like a younger generation of readers than like would be reading Marvel comics in the 70s, and maybe you know, DC I think skewed a little younger except for Batman. Like you would get like 10-year-olds reading DC comics, or at least starting to read them, and then you know like probably like 12-year-olds reading Marvel. So I think it's similar that this book is. Like, for me, it didn't quite land perfectly because there's parts of it where I'm like, this is really, like, such obvious satire that it's kind of like, well, what's the point? But I think it's good satire if you're giving this to, you know, an 11-year-old. Like, they get what it's about, and it's funny, you know? Like, I think it's an effective book in that way, and that its audience is a little younger than... I mean, obviously, the average comic book audience is now, like, 35.
Yeah.
But I think if this is a comic that you could give to, you know, like a 12-year-old, and they're like, oh, this is cool, without having, I mean, there's maybe a little bit of stuff where you're like, oh, I don't know about the content here, but most of it is funny, you know, it's not like gross out or otherwise just like mean-spirited.
I feel like my edgy like 16 to 21-year-old phase would have been like all over. Especially if it had continued.
Exactly, yeah. I enjoy it for, like, again, that sort of idiocracy thing, that it's making fun of our world and our system, essentially, but also removing itself enough that it doesn't feel so direct, because I'm sick of hearing shit about what's really going on right now. And so I did appreciate that aspect of it. But yeah, after a while, the storytelling just started to feel a little bit too loose, and just didn't feel like it was about Prez. It felt like it was more focused on being a satire of the system than it felt like giving us a hero to root for.
Yeah.
And like I think you mentioned, Chris, that you know, the character of Prez, the old Prez who becomes the vice president, just kind of doesn't do much. Prez herself really doesn't feel like she's doing much. She really, like, it feels very clear that she is just like a mouthpiece for the writer, more than an actual character in the comic itself. Which, you know, I guess is okay, but ideally maybe in the second arc she would have more to do, but there's just no story. There's no stakes for her. There's nothing going on. She
doesn't have a struggle.
Yeah.
She's like, likable, though, and I want to know more about her.
She is, yeah.
But she doesn't seem to, nothing seems to be at risk for her.
Right. Like, she loses her dad in, like, the first or second issue, and then that's kind of it. Like, there's apparently her grandma who's watching her and following her, but that's not even a thing. There's just nothing to kind of latch onto. But you're right, and she is still likable.
And unlike, I mean, it's... I guess a difference in philosophies, but like Prez in the 70s is coming from a very like his goal is like, look, I got to do a good job. Like, you know, he's very focused on trying to be a good president, whereas she kind of falls into it. So it's like, you know, the Prez character in this is like, look, you're in a great position because you don't owe anybody anything. You can do whatever you want. That kind of takes away a little bit because it's like, well, then there's no real. I mean, there's a net where if she does a bad job, it's like, well, who cares?
Yeah. But she does. She is genuinely like trying to do a good job and do the right thing, and is not okay with injustice and that kind of stuff, which is nice. But yeah, there was something a little off there and a little missing. But overall, still, I'm sad it was canceled. Would have liked to have seen more of this, but. I think I'm definitely going to check out the Flintstones thing based on this. I think I really like his writing style overall.
If you want like a satirical, like slightly cynical view of politics in your comics, Flintstones is a good reflection of our real world. It's similar in that regard. I think the storytelling's a little better just because you know the characters going in, and then like Sabrina, and then like Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, the way he inverts the characters that you know is really good.
Wait, that's not him though.
No, but it does a similar way. You know
I see. Okay. Yeah.
You know, where like knowing who Fred and Barney are, and then thinking like, oh, okay, this is how they inverted it, and they're all really depressed war veterans.
Right.
Is a good like inversion of what you know.
God.
All right. Anything else to say on the topic of Prez?
No, let's move on.
We'll move on to Crisis, our continuing series where we talk about Crisis on Infinite Earths. We're on issue 5 now. Mm-hmm. What happened to the last issue? Oh, Monitor is dead, right? Oh, no.
We watched more universes get destroyed for 4 issues in a row with not really knowing who the bad guys were and not caring about any of our characters and not seeing any characters that we even knew or cared about. And here we are, though. It's ramping up. I'm excited.
Yeah, a character that we still don't know much about has died. And his little ward, what's her name?
Lila. No, but this starts off good. It's got the dude.
Yeah. Oh, you're right. The dude in Shadows is talking to Psycho Pirate and Red Tornado, and
Psycho Pirate's like, why the fuck has it did not happen? The world everything should have been destroyed. I should be ruling this. And the dude in the shadow's like, it's not working as well as we wanted because Monitor did something, and this is actually what he did. And this has been missing from the whole story because Monitor's like, I'm watching this thing. I'm not telling you any information as to why, but it's going to happen. And this was like, Monitor this, and then when he died, his energy powered up those beacons that we've been looking at for the last 3 issues. I'm like,
oh, cool. Is that what happened? I still kind of miss some of that.
Yeah.
Like I heard him say, like after he dies, it was his little ward Lila, who was also Harbinger, who was like under control by the bad guys, and the bad guys forced her to kill him. He's got a video saying, hey, I knew this was going to happen. Relax, it's fine. Don't cry. I've got Earth 1 and Earth 2 inside of me. And they're still merging, so we still got to stop that. But look, everything's okay, and now I'm dead. Bye. So that happened. And so
Alexander Luthor's full grown.
Yeah, you've got Pariah, who's the other guy that was hanging out with them, and so Lila, Alexander Luthor, and Pariah summon all the heroes and say, "Listen, we got to fix everything. It's gonna be great. We got to do this."
First, we got to see a whole page of like Lana Lang being like, shit's fucked up, y'all.
This page. So, like, the time is all mixed together. It's like dinosaurs and people from the past and people from the future.
Yes.
And Lana Lang has this monologue where she's saying, like, oh, everything's going crazy. My one big question. After we fix all this, will we remember it? Which is sort of a very weird thing, I think, to bring up at this point. Like, there's so much crazy shit, and you're wondering what's going to happen when we have solved the problem afterwards.
That's like seeding, like the plot is going to say, like, y'all forgot all this. But I would not come to that conclusion. Would anybody come to that conclusion?
Like, that's not what you should be worried about right now, lady. Come on.
Yeah, that's a very strange thing off the cuff to just
There's
like, here's my number one.
Go ahead. Oh, I see. I thought you had another number one that you were about to mention.
But what I like about this issue in relation to past issues is, like, the past issues all had, like, oh, we're watching, the death of Batlash's world and Jonah Hex's world, and we're watching the death of Commandi's world, and we're watching the death of this. And this one is, like, everything's collapsed. Like, the Legion and dinosaurs and Batman and Superman are all in the same world. So, like, I have, like, an anchor point now of being like... Yeah. Well, what's the dinosaur fucking thing? Oh, well, that's that. Oh, okay. Well, why are there cowboys here? Because that. Well, aren't we from like the haunted tank? Yeah. But it all like merges in a way that like makes sense, and it just.
I get what you're saying. It makes sense. I still I know I was really trying to get on board with this thing, and I was just wondering like, why is there no scene where the two Supermans meet? And they say, "Oh, look, the other Superman. Great."
Well, Lois meets both of them.
But regular Superman is just like, "Yeah, there's two of us. Get over it."
But they've known that because they've known
why
that.
Would he be impressed?
Yeah, because old Superman met, or maybe young Superman met Commandy, in a previous issue, he goes, "Oh, you must have met the other one of me." Which I thought was a cute, like Superman moment.
A little bit more. I needed it a little bit more explicit. Of just like, hey, there's two worlds, and we're like, I wanted to see everybody meet their counterpart at the same time. Like, I feel like that would have been.
They already know each other, though. I understand what you're saying.
Okay,
but
all right.
They've known each other since the 50s.
All right. Okay. You're right.
Yeah. I mean, I've been reading Justice League comics from the 70s, and it's like every 3 issues they meet them again.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
And I just read an issue where they met the what do you call those guys? Are they the Freedom whatevers?
The Freedom Fighters? Is that what they are?
Yeah, they showed up after the final big splash page.
Mm-hmm. It reminded me of this old computer game called Freedom Force. Did you guys play this?
I do remember that.
It was a great game. Oh man, you had a Minuteman. That guy was a good hero.
What I like about this issue is it's actually like laying out the stakes. Like one, we've got a bad guy. 2, we've got like Earth 1 and Earth 2 are kind of in the same place. They shouldn't be in the same place, but they're gonna be, and we're gonna have to figure out how to make everybody live together. But it could fuck up, and like a mountain could accidentally show up in one of these things and kill everybody. Like that's like, okay, well, we got to stop that, and we've got to stop this, and we've got to stop that. Like, to the point where I'm getting mad at the previous 3 issues. Like, I think the first 4 issues could have been condensed into 1 issue.
Well, I still feel like this issue could have been condensed because there's so much random, like, fight this, fight that, where, especially in the back half of this issue, where I wrote down no notes, except for one caption, where it's like, these people and these people show up seemingly for no reason. And I quoted that caption, seemingly for no reason.
Yeah, but that's what the last 3 issues were, like, entirely.
Yes.
So, like, we're moving in the right direction.
This one is, you're right, it is better. There's a scene with Lois Lane talking to everybody.
This is my favorite.
Yeah, my favorite is where she talks to some guy from the past who's like, well, where'd George Washington go? And she's like, hey, come talk to me here. Come talk into my microphone. And he's like, oh, well, I was just doing this. And he's like giving an interview to the cameras. I love it.
And then there's a space alien behind him.
Yes.
Well, and the dude calls her Lois Lane. Because he's confused. Because it's my classic. Like, I love the Futurama joke where they say the car was invented by Gerald Ford.
Vince, I fucking knew you were gonna mention that joke because I knew that joke was right up your alley.
I love that joke. But like, that's the thing is like the Legion's not gonna remember shit that happened 1,000 years ago. Like Chuck Klosterman in his book has this exercise of like, name somebody who lived in a century. In each century, and like, okay, well, I lived in this century. Who lived in the 1900s, 1800s? How far can you go back before you can't name a person? Just any person that lived like in the 1100s, unless you really know like your saints, or your popes. Like,
I was gonna say, I can go pretty far back because I know a lot of kings.
Okay.
Yeah, people who are good at history are probably okay with that. I'm not, so I'd probably stop after this century. I don't know anybody.
I got century. Columbus, and then 1300. If Chaucer wasn't there, then I'm fucked. So
Boccaccio, he was in the 1300s.
Like the bread focaccia?
Boccaccio.
I got to throw it out there. This is you're right, best issue so far. But not for any of the reasons that you mentioned. It is the best issue so far because they dropped my birthday in there, May 13th. Boom. May 13th, 2946. It's a lady from the future, but it's okay.
1200s, Thomas Aquinas. 1100s, Henry II. 1000s.
So let's get back to this issue. At the end, we what does this guy do? He also like turns Red Tornado into an actual tornado or something like that.
Yeah,
and says he'll never be the same again. I don't know. He makes Red Tornado evil.
Which, the poor man's vision, I think is what we called him last issue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think if I recall correctly, Justice League International's first arc is all about rebuilding Red Tornado.
Okay, cool.
Which comes post-crisis, if I'm not mistaken.
Which is also one of the like 3 Vision plots that gets done a lot. So it makes sense.
I gotta tell you, go watch.
Young Justice, yes.
Justice, yes. The
I
Red
knew
Tornado.
You were going to say that. I wrote that in my notes. Kia's going to pimp Young Justice.
Oh.
No, I didn't write that.
I really had to. It's so good. But like, there's so many great Red Tornado moments in there.
So many?
Actually, yeah. There's some really great Red Tornado moments. I won't spoil any of them. I was rewatching it recently, Vince. If you do watch it, the first few episodes are pretty forgettable. Don't go judging it based on that. It gets good.
So the other subplot we haven't mentioned is the Flash. The Flash we keep seeing. Like his world keeps dying or whatever, right? He's like, "What's going on? Why am I in this black space?"
I like that Psycho Pirate keeps calling him Flasher.
Mm-hmm.
That's all. That's all I got to say about that.
Right. Well, so what happens is the Psycho Pirate controls him and makes him all freaked out. But then he overcomes the Psycho Pirate and he's like, who's the man in the shadows? What's going on? And so he finally figures out who the bad guy is for the first 5 issues of this that we haven't seen.
And it was the Monitor, but like a dead zombie version of Monitor?
It looks a lot like Darkseid to me, though.
Yeah.
He says he's the Monitor, but he looks like Zurg from Buzz Lightyear.
I just have more questions about all of this because that guy just died. And so, I get that you're saying we have more something to latch on to, but I still just don't really know who the bad guy is and how they're actually making any of this stuff happen. So I'm glad you guys are liking it more. I am liking it more as well. But I still have so many problems with this book. Crisis. You'll get better, right?
This is the first issue I wasn't bored at any point.
Oh, okay. I went into this issue with such high hopes because the cover had the 2 worlds merging with Wonder Woman's face in the middle, and I was like, okay, we're gonna maybe focus on Wonder Woman this time. Great. No, we didn't.
No, we haven't really had any anchor for this whole thing.
Yeah. We just need an anchor. Oh well. That's we'll get to an anchor next time. Anything else to say about Crisis 5?
No, I think we're good. Although it looks like DC announced today or this past week, I guess, that their streaming service is going to have all of like Marvel Unlimited is going to have their comic books and their TV shows. So maybe Young Justice will end up there. And
Great.
we'll have
it's been off of Netflix for a while.
Yeah, so that might be something to look out for.
Great.
Interesting.
Young Justice Outsiders is going to be on that series. It's going to be on that streaming platform. It's a revival of the series. So
yes, yeah, I know there was a season 3 coming. I didn't know that it was super confirmed though. Mm-hmm. I think I did know that. I don't know. It's hard to follow all these canceled things that are getting rebooted, re-brought back to life.
I'm sure Prez will be back in 40 years.
Yeah.
Hooray! Written by me.
Congratulations! I didn't know you got that job. Good for you.
Well, in 40 years, I will.
Good. Awesome. Oh, I thought you got the job now as a contract for 40 years from now.
Chris, I think in 20 years you'll be writing a one story, just a one shot. And then people will be like, Dobson knows.
Oh. No, I think 10 years from now you will be including it as a side an Easter egg in one of your books, and that'll lead to the one shot 20 years from now, which will lead to the ongoing series 40 years from now. I think we've got your future all planned out. Don't worry about it.
Thank you. This sounds great.
So let's talk about it next time. We've got so we talked about some teens. We talked about some new teams coming up. And also Deadpool 2 came out recently. We had some X-Force. So great time to talk about X-Force. Yeah. We are going to read X-Force 70 to 75. This was from 1997, 1998. This is when Cable left the team and they kind of road trip around for a little while. I'm excited. I haven't read this. Chris, you picked these. You've read these, and I know you're a big fan of X-Force, right?
Yes, and if y'all don't love it, that's fine. It might be an acquired taste, but I remember reading these books when at a CVS pharmacy right off the newsstand, and I was like, these books are awesome, and it made me go back and read a bunch of X-Force comics going backwards, and I was like, oh, these aren't so good, but it made me a fan of a bunch of the characters. Some of which have cameos in Deadpool 2, which is exciting. It's cool stuff. Going into the 90s, there's a little bit of crazy continuity stuff, but a lot of this is self-contained. Teens on the road comics, so it should be fun.
My first comic book that I ever bought was from a pharmacy as well. It was a Marvel team-up comic, and it was again best thing ever. Drug Emporium is where I bought it. What a terrible name for a pharmacy. Drug Emporium.
Or a best name for a pharmacy.
You're right. Maybe the best name. Anyways, join us next time for X-Force 70 to 75. Go to the Emporium, get your drugs, go to the future, get your comics written by Chris, and then come back.
Get your taco drones.
Get your taco drones, yeah. All right. I wonder if Pharmaduke owned Drug Emporium. Anyways.
Pharmaduke explained.
Right. Pharmaduke explained. Yes. Great. Some of you might get that reference. If you don't, it's okay. Join us next time. Thank you, Vince.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Chris.
My pleasure.
Okay, great. I'm Kia. It's been great to have you all here listening to us, listening to my voice for so long. I don't want to shut up because I love it when other people are listening to my voice. So I'm going to keep on talking. No, I'm not. Bye.